Steve is, to me, he's my best friend. He is the most kind, most selfless, caring. He takes care of me. He takes care of his friends.
He's one of those guys he's always there for you no matter what. He's pushing you no matter what. He doesn't rest on his laurels by any means. He always wants to be doing something. He always wants to be out and active, as you can imagine.
This is a young man who is always doing what he needs to do, who is very determined, who sets his goals, who is his version of the Energizer Bunny. And certainly for us is someone to look up to.
He puts other people before himself. He's incredibly driven and meticulous and smart and funny, and incredibly wonderful to be around.
Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease that has an impairment in the way certain electrolytes cross the cell membrane. Because of that, the mucus in the body is thicker. So tubes throughout the body, small tubes, can get blocked by thickened mucus. So in cystic fibrosis, lung disease is very common, and because the small tubes in the pancreas don't allow the enzymes to get into the stomach to digest fats and proteins, nutritional issues are very common.
Steve was first identified with issues that were called failure to thrive. He wasn't keeping weight. He wasn't responding as typical children do.
They called us. They wanted to see us in the office to check on Stephen, and I was like, oh, that's really nice of the pediatrician, and it really wasn't. It was the results of the test, that he had tested him for CF and that he would like to go further. Came home, and I did have Dr. Spock book, and I read what CF was, and I threw the book in the trash. We had decided that we weren't going to keep him in a bubble. As Stephen was growing up, he had shown he loved sports. The only sport I wouldn't let him play was football, because he was skinny, he was tiny, but he took a love to soccer, and we just went with it.
The very first time I went to see him play, I watched him play. I thought he was tremendous. I didn't know that it was Stephen Bell that I was watching. And, I said, who's that kid? And at that point, they informed that's Stephen Bell. And, CF was not a part of the equation.
There was a game I remember. He was literally throwing up in the morning and coughing up blood, and he said, I want to play. I feel fine enough to play. And we had been on the phone with Dr. Atlas, actually, and Doc says, if he feels good enough to play, let him play.
I think Stephen's strong will is very much a part of his overall good health. I think Stephen has pushed himself beyond what you would expect a healthy child, but definitely a child with a disease like cystic fibrosis.
I first learned that Steve had cystic fibrosis after we had met a night out and a few of us were staying at his apartment. I obviously went to my computer and did some research of my own, and it's terrifying. It's everything you read is doom and gloom, and what you read doesn't do justice to the incredible person that Steve is. Being with Steve has, I think, certainly opened my eyes to a different way to view the world. He takes on every day without a complaint. He handles every difficult opportunity with an immense amount of patience and grace. Being with him has, I think, taught me a lot about what's worth getting upset about and what are the things that really matter.
We do it with our current team now, that every time something gets a little bit tough, we share the story of Stephen Bell and what he had to overcome during his time and say, look, the little problems that we have are nothing compared to what he's experienced. So suck it up a little bit.
I decided to stop reading things on the internet and spend a little bit more time getting to know Steve and getting to know the Boomer Esiason Foundation and the great work that Team Boomer is doing.
You know, when I think of who Stephen is and how he carries himself, he is the model cystic fibrosis patient. He's compliant with his treatments. He's not afraid of his disease. He talks about it. He impacts others. He's an inspiration for other CF patients who unfortunately at times are feeling sorry for themselves. He's a major inspiration for my own son, Gunnar. And when he runs a marathon, whether it be the New York City Marathon or the San Diego Marathon or the London Marathon or wherever he may be running someday, he's running on behalf of not only himself and his family, but the thousands of people that are suffering from cystic fibrosis.
Hey, Doodle. We are very proud of you.
Steve has a way of drawing everyone in, and you know, whether it's getting all of his friends to run marathons or getting me to run another 3 miles when we've already been on the road for 16 or whatever, he just has a way of bringing people along.
We've been through a lot, and you are truly my inspiration on a daily basis. And I wish you the very best in life, what it offers you, and I love you.
We are going to get married this year, and we plan to have a family, and we plan to grow old together. And for any newly engaged couple, that's the plan.